Hello guys. I hope everybody's well. Let me know if you can hear me loud or clear. Some people say I've been a touch too soft in the volume. I've increased it a little bit. I don't want to distort it, so let me know if it's okay or you need it a bit louder. Anyway, I hope everyone's been good. I will do my best. I know it's fairly rude when I slurp and make noises, but it's the morning here and I need to wake up slightly. Anyway, the last video did all right. I won't comment too much on it. I usually like to let that video, the comments are still coming in, and maybe comment it more on the responses in the next live stream. Have a discussion on that while all the comments have sort of come through. So first, while you guys start asking me questions, remember, make them stand out in the live stream so I can visually see them. Put emojis at the front, bracket them with a whole bunch of emojis. Oh, and also, guys, I really appreciate the donations and super chats. If you want to chuck $1 or $2, you really don't have to. But if you do, just to kind of stand out and tip me something, that's fine. But if you really want to make a donation, it's probably better for both of us through PayPal. I only just found out that through super chats here, YouTube takes over 70%. So if you send me $10, I only get less than 3. So if you want to throw a gold coin, you don't have to. Feel free just to kind of stand out and give me a thumbs up. Fair enough. But if you really want to say thanks and you feel compelled to donate, especially a substantial amount, I feel bad when some of you guys send me a substantial amount and I'm grateful. You say thanks, but through here, I don't get much of it at all. So have a think about that. So anyway, but yeah, you don't have to. Let's get on with it. Like in terms of, let me talk about a couple of the more recent videos apart from the last one. Mainly the one that was the individual matters in terms of judging women as individual people that have to stand on their own principles and not always judging every woman like women, plural, like every person you come up against, you should be judging more as an individual. Yes, they have their inherent nature, but how they express it, that's their individual responsibility. And really, the person you choose as a friend or a romantic partner, if they were the same as everybody else, you'd let people arrange your marriage, you'd let your parents arrange your boyfriend or girlfriend. So let's not kid ourselves. We're trying to, if you are dating, you're trying to find someone who matches you. If you're finding a friend, it's someone who matches your personality and your values. So one of the comments from MP said, let me offer an explanation as to why many men think in such general terms when it comes to women. It is rare to get hold of an individual woman because they always dodge personal accountability like a swarm. They never face you face to face as soon as they F up. This is an important point. A lot of men, I think, find the propensity to kind of treat women as the collective because they don't actually show much of themselves, because they tend to reflex away from personal accountability. So if they're always showing you themselves as aloof and not being honest and not being accountable, or like my last video, not standing for anything, not saying I like the beach or I like the mountains, I can really make a distinction, I can let you know who I am and where I stand, then I suppose that's an excellent point. That it's easy for men to, by reflex and very naturally, judge women in general terms because they present themselves in general terms. They don't often, and again, this isn't about like pointing finger at women, gentlemen. Like when you're trying to pick somebody, when you're making decisions, when you want to stand up for your own values, you have to stand up for them. You have to be accountable. It's all your fault. You know, if you're, don't point to women to be responsible for your decisions, but in terms of why, perhaps a lot of men in a relaxed autopilot nature response kind of go, well, she's kind of relaxed. She's not really saying anything, so she's pretty easygoing. No, she's not. So that's an interesting and great point. Who was it? MP, where in some parts you really can't blame men for taking women on face value when that face value is virtually nothing. They don't actually face you face to face, as he said. That was a really good point. Dunstan asks, if a woman's entire social media is comprised solely of virtue signaling, is it fair to say you're dealing with a narcissistic psycho? I wouldn't go as far as to sort of accentuate the narcissistic psycho. Generally, they're pushing narcissism as an organizing principle today, I think, because it works in terms of clickbait, in terms of media, in terms of getting people's attentions and eyeballs in the comment section so they know where to put banners and advertising. So they pour this narcissistic kerosene over all media, over our social media and all of our channels, because it's more efficient for them to market. And we drink it up. But in terms of, a woman especially, because of their propensities sort of for gossip and all of those things, I think because women historically, and you could argue biologically to a degree, because they're the more passive gender, they don't go out there in the world, hunt, they don't ask men out, they kind of sit back and wait for men or the world to help them or be the forthright ones. Women aren't very direct. It's just in their nature. It's don't get annoyed at it. It's just the way most of them are. Props to any woman who isn't. Unfortunately, most of them are passive in that sense. So combine that passivity with a high propensity to sort of, their cocaine, if you will, is shopping, advertising, gossip. Virtue signaling is part of all that, and they're being fed a lot of it. Boffin said in a comment, I think it was regarding also about the individual matters, not women in the plural matter, is I agree with the premise of your argument. And it is an argument. We need to sort of see, we need to reciprocally hold our values like men and women. But the thing is, we can't discount that men have their nature, and we unconsciously on autopilot can act out as a man, and women act out as women too. But he says, when translating to practical problem solving for men, it's equivalent to an exercise that involves choosing just the right hyena for your pet. A lot of times it is. Without being glib, you have to have your eyes open for female nature, not to point your finger at it and make fun of her, but so you have your eyes open. So you're not anesthetized like in a Freudian sense by mummy, by romantic love and being patted on the head and switching your prefrontal cortex off. It's not about putting women down at all. It's about, for your own sake, recognize that the person you're attracted to that might be sweet and, a lovely person, she has her nature. Just like you might be a nice guy, but put a bottle of Jack Daniels in you and a night out with your friends at a strip club, and afterwards the stories they might tell of you and what comes out when you just kind of, you run on biology and your brain is switched off and you're running on nothing, little more than your limbic system and motor functions, that's another thing all entirely. So, and the video after that, in terms of, well, it's kind of, some of these videos I make responses to is something that either someone said to me during the day or a couple of comments or I see in the media that kind of reminds me of something that I get annoyed about, but bleeds into a really important view of life and how we're pushed and pulled to be frustrated and not treated fairly, whether it's generally in the media or in one-on-one interpersonal relationships. And one was the kind of glib comment of, dude, just start a business. The master, Paul Proteus, said, just start a business sometimes seems like another sell on a lifestyle and a just try harder mentality. Got the place and miserable, working out and still miserable, taking the vacations and are spinning plates but still unhappy. You start a business, buy my course, and I can teach you too how to make $10,000 a month working 4 hours a week. I fully expect to see, do you even business, bro? Bumper stickers any day now. Yeah. Those kind of glib answers to me, in a good way, think about why they frustrate you, and why they're not true. And that should help you solve your own problems and calibrate your own compass. Thanks, Dynamite Rabbit, for the super chat. Like I said at the start, if you really want to donate substantially like you have, Dynamite, please do it through PayPal. Super chat through YouTube takes 70%, man. I'll only get $30. So, whereas PayPal only takes 3%. I get nearly everything. But thank you anyway. I don't care how you guys, if you want to say thank you, donate. But I'm just saying, for your own sake and your own wallet, if you really want to give it to me, if it's a couple of bucks here and there through Super Chat here, just to kind of stand out in the comments, tip me a gold coin, that's fine. But Dynamite, I really, really appreciate it, man. I really do, from the bottom of my heart. But if you want to donate that much, maybe next time, guys, through PayPal directly. I get nearly all of it. But either way, I'm grateful. Dynamite actually said, been watching for years and I truly appreciate your content. Thanks, man. I appreciate the donation. So yeah, in terms of judging people, don't be hateful, have your eyes open. And a lot of this stuff, I'm very inquisitive. And so when I talk to people in my real life, whether it's a male friend or a female, I still have this philosophical, intellectual curiosity that, I'm digging because I am interested, not because of some nefarious, I want to find out something so I can exploit you. But part of that is knowing the person you're dealing with, not just personally what the person's gone through, but as a man, what I need, what I'm intrinsically hardwired for, and how I may respond despite my best efforts, understanding my flaws that might be personal, but also just might be me as a male. And similarly, as a female, you need to recognize that the fact that you're attracted to something that's different from you, while at the same time trying to judge them fairly in terms of interaction, can be a tricky thing. It's all about having your eyes open. Christopher asks, how many videos have I done in total today? I have no idea. A couple hundred? I've done a fair few in the last few weeks. But that's mainly because I've been locked down and I've had more time than usual. So, bonus, I suppose. And again, on that same video about just start a business, I also had Always say, almost as bad as telling the clinically depressed person, dude, stop feeling down, let it go. You just need to trust in God. Yeah, I think at the heart of it, it's an almost an insulting dismissal of you as a person. Like, yeah, I don't care what you're saying. Just get over you. I don't want to have to listen to you. I don't care what your problems are. Just be happy. Can you just be happy? Can you just start a business? Can you be undepressed? Can you just go get a six pack? Wet palette warrior, is there any way to salvage a discussion where you treat the person as an individual, but they attribute your position to a collective? Aside from politely reminding them that no, I didn't say that, no, you inferred that, no, I said this, and remind them, no, I'm an individual, you're judging me as a, like, tell them what you see. Be honest about it. And if they still can't unlock themselves from a position where they relate to people as collectives and they don't have some sort of attention, a conscious attention in the moment for the person they're dealing with, listening to them. It's one of the most valuable gifts you can give somebody, giving someone your conscious attention, like listening to what they say, answering their questions, you talking, them listening to you. Then afterwards, people who don't think about this stuff, when they have good friends and good conversations and good partners, they feel good generally in their life and they don't question it. They don't ask about it. They're not curious about it. But when you're like me, I really appreciate it. And I notice the difference perhaps when I'm around somebody that makes me feel great. And I go, well, it was awesome. And I wonder why. And then I can actually see the reasons why. And it makes me really appreciate them more for what they do and how they treat me. And likewise. So yeah, I just say be honest. And if a wet palette, and if they're still treating you as a collective and not you as a person, choose maybe to be around them less, if no matter what you say or do, because you're not a doormat either. Dunstan, what do you think about the Pew Research study that says 50% of single males and females are not looking to date or have relationships? I haven't seen it, but doesn't surprise me. I heard another study recently that I don't know if it was Pew Research, but they've actually said that, remember a few years ago, they did the study with Tinder and they kind of said that, I think it was 13% of women swiped right, whereas 50% of men swiped left or right. Men kind of were average. It's gotten even worse now, in the sense that they've actually been able to drill into the data over a long period of time. And basically, in terms of a psychological overview, it really makes clear that in terms of sex and men's willingness to get with women and give women a chance and even try to form relationships, I think this is what women don't see, because they've got like a harem of men waiting to give them everything they want. So there's no reason to choose. I mean, you can stay the same for men, but women have much more cocaine there on their screen than men do in terms of attention and feeding their vanity. It says the main difference between men and women when it comes to like sex now, and bear in mind this when we talk about hooking up and social media, why it's so bad, and I would suggest not being on these things very often in terms of dating especially, is man's default is, why wouldn't I have sex with this woman? As in, give me a good reason why I wouldn't want to sleep with her, and then those reasons come in. A woman's default is, there better be a very good reason why I should want to sleep with this man. They're very oppositional, the way our natural reactions are. So bear that in mind when you look at hooking up, and Tinder especially, why that thing is so toxic. You really shouldn't be on there. Tinder's pretty much like, it's almost like gonzo porn to me, because it's so close to reality, but it's not quite there. It's just a circus. So yeah, men's default is, why wouldn't I have sex with this person? And then the reasons come in that resist him from the ease of just wanting to have sex. Whereas a woman is like, no way, I'm not having sex. Give me a good reason why I should. So they're very different points of approach. Yeah, Dunstan, send me an email if you want. If you the link to that study, I'd be interested in reading it. Guys, be nice in the comment section, all right? Exactly, as XMAS said, calm down, gents. Benjamin asks, would you say it's more a curse to be a top 5 to 10% guy today? In a lot of ways, yeah. Because look at the avalanche of women that you feel like a kid in a candy store, but it's so sugared up. Look, a lot of women these days of growing up with the mentors of Kim Kardashian, social media, and being fed things that exacerbate their vanity. So what you have to choose from, you think you've got a lot of freedom, but wading through all of that, yeah. Not to feel sorry for Chad, but I don't think Chad has it as easy as perhaps in my era. Brand new, thank you for the super chat, man. As I said before, if you guys want to donate substantial amounts, other than $1 or so, to stand out as a question, do it through PayPal, because super chats actually take more than 70% of the money. I barely get anything. Brand new asks, human, in the West or Australia, will they acknowledge in the mainstream media about men not settling down with women in similar sense to the herbivore men of Japan? I think if it gets great enough, they have to, because it will be a big social story. It will be too big to ignore. But if there's a way to ignore it and guys are still hooking up and, getting women pregnant by mistake in divorce courts, on the surface it still looks like men and women are getting together, and they can obscure, whether or not women and men are getting along or getting married or having happy families. But to them, it's kind of like, yeah, men and women are still in the mix, in the conversation. It's the same as always, but times have changed. No, everything has changed in terms of relations. I think if things get similar to Japan, where the economy starts to suffer, it gets big enough that just in the street, it just becomes word of mouth, things that people are worried about. Then, yeah. Thank you, Zone Television. Thanks for watching. Jorian asks, human, is it me or do many content creators at a certain point not care about feedback or interaction with their fans unless they are donating? Don't know. It could be the bigger they get, maybe they don't have time, but at the same time, if I don't know, I could say you should feel a sense of a guilt or giving back if your audience is giving a lot to you, or if they're asking you questions, especially, and they're donating, and you're just kind of not even acknowledging them or whatever. It depends what position you're making your content from. A lot of guys use it as a business model or use it as I'm going to do what works or gives me attention. I've just always, I felt that I enjoy having a conversation with guys and talking about everyday stuff. So interacting is very important to me. That conversational element of discussing our stuff is really helpful. Me sitting back and preaching from a distance and not talking to anybody, not interacting, is not so much me just listening to myself and being pompous, but I know that the things that helped me was conversation, mentoring with elders, being able to impart information and things like that. So I think interaction is helpful for what I do. I think some other people who have it as a distant kind of business thing, like, you're on stage, with a microphone, Tony Robbins style. That's figuratively what a lot of guys do. They've got the radio station persona or something, and they do their thing. You pay them to ask them questions, and that's it. There's no interaction. Everyone's got different ways of doing their content. I suppose it's up to you how much you want to sort of be involved with it, if it works for you. Some guys don't want interaction. I think conversation is really important, because through it, I know that I know how to speak. I know how to interact. Because if I'm just listening to somebody and going, yeah, you're right, I'll write that down, and it never leaves here, and the only way I can feel good about myself is actually being fed by somebody else, I need to exercise it through my own mind and my own mouth. And in terms of, what was your question? Where is it again? Sorry, it's jumped. Yeah. I think, look, YouTube as well, because of the business model now, even I've had to kind of, I don't like doing it, sort of saying subscribe at the end and everything, but I'm trying to play their game to keep my channel afloat, rather than kind of just completely bending over. So there's degrees to which you have to play the game, but some people play it to further degrees, and I'm not judging them. But then if you're doing content that it's really not something you enjoy, you don't have much freedom in what you want to say, how you want to present yourself, and then you start accumulating subs and money, then if you really want to change, you feel like you can't and you're locked in. I still want to have the freedom to do what I want. I still want to be, without using the corny term, human. So if you notice on my channel, I've evolved over time, not because I'm planning anything, but because I think this makes sense. I want to try this. I want to try and do video. I think a face-to-face conversation with guys would be really, really helpful. I hope I answered that. I can't speak for other people, but I agree with Coltane to a degree that that the monetization on YouTube has hamstrung the old school style manosphere content, because the intellectual content isn't really commercial these days. So they're not a great fit. Ted, would you do a video showing men that they should stop trying to change female behavior because they won't change? Once men realize most females are gone, it might help them walk and find a path. Yes and no. What do you do about guys who dearly want a family, who still want female companionship to whatever degree they think they want, which you can act stoic and say, the safest, most noble way that I can be respectful amongst guys is not to have any interaction at all. But when the screen's turned off here and I'm all alone, it's like, I really miss having a woman's head on my chest. I mean, I like that feeling, I'll be honest. But I also know my limits, and I know my values, and I know how much I'll tolerate too. That's important. So you can't pretend to be like a cold stoic if you're not. If you are, fine. But I got a lot of guys I see online, they don't do themselves any help by putting on a lion suit. Literally be honest. Don't figuratively act something, even if it's in the right direction. I don't know. I don't think I've often said ignoring things in life that are important to you because it might be easier, may not afterward be good for you because you'll go so far off your own path. If we're talking about going your way, you'll go down a safe path, but it might not be yours. You might like safety. You might like less of the chaos that you had before. But the challenge is don't lie to yourself. Do what you have to do. You've got to recognize what's nutritional for you. It's kind of like diet. When you find out what foods work for you in particular. There's no one size fits all. You aside from drink water and so forth, but like the balance of whether you're lactose intolerant or if you eat meat or vegetables or whatever, some people feel better or worse. In the same dietary way, your psychological, ethical, and moral diet, if you will, is similar. You have to be honest enough to sort of listen to your own body and your own life and see what works for you. But certainly, recognize female behavior. It's not that men should try and change women. It's correct. Like, you shouldn't try and change women. They are as they are. You shouldn't try and change anybody, even a male. I wouldn't want to change them either. Don't try and change anybody. All you can change is yourself, really. That's all you've have a modicum of control over. Everything else will either be manipulation if you try, which unless you're a sociopath or a narcissist, you don't mind. But most decent people, you don't feel good about manipulating others and using them. Or if you do, like these guys that say, you've got to control your woman. I don't want someone that I have to put a leash around, that I have to treat like a pet. For me, it's debasing. Some guys can do it, I can't. I'd rather be honest. And if she can't be honest and have responsibility for herself, all well and good. Some guys will say, well, human, you'll be alone forever. Well, fine. At least I know I'll be alone where it matters. I'd rather that than be with someone that I'm tolerating because I know how to push her buttons and, pull her strings to get her to sort of puppeteer herself around me. Real names not given. I hear Japan will have the same number of people being born as people turning 80 years old in 2031. Interesting. Red Pill Tokyo probably has a lot to say about that. He actually he resides in Japan. He knows a lot about the Japanese situation. Armored Ghost, 80s music was the bomb. Agree or disagree? Agree. I've been listening to Steel Panther the last week. Corny as hell, but sounds awesome, guys. Have a look. Especially the latest one, If You Really, Really Love Me. Or Fat Girl. They're a great band. Look them up on YouTube, Steel Panther. Great music. Like, the lyrics are funny, but just the music's awesome. Zone Television. Question, why do you think I compare women I date to my ex? I don't think you should compare anyone literally because they're not your ex. It kind of means you're living in the past of your ex, or you're not over your ex. You haven't dealt with your issues with your ex. But I don't see anything wrong with figuratively learning the lessons and not stepping in the same traps where if a woman exhibits traits that, directly lead to the things that caused problems before, and there's no two ways about it, judging behavior, there's nothing wrong with it if you know it's for you or not for you. Mirroring the person when they're clearly not is not. I mean, just again, I always kind of like to flip it on its head. Would you like a woman that you like judging you because you might have a red car and her ex had a red car. It's got nothing to do with you. And she says, I can't date you. Or because of your star sign, because of her ex. He was Taurus and so are you, and I can't date Tauruses. Don't superficially judge people. Because you wouldn't want to be superficially judged, because it's stupid. I mean, it tells you a lot about their intelligence, but reciprocate it and you'll see how fair it is. There are things to do with biology, I know. There are very stark differences between men and women, but aside from those hardwired biological differences and limbic differences, everything else, a good litmus test is, what if I flipped it around in terms of morals and values and ethics? It's kind of a nice 1-2 step. Jerome, I am reluctant to start a YouTube channel because I think it inherently changes people. Maybe. It's probably changed me to a degree, if I'm being honest. I mean, I spend a lot of time making content and interacting with people that aren't in front of me. I'm not going to deny that. At the same time before, I was just getting more and more frustrated that I couldn't open up about these things and talk to people that just happen to stumble into my world, whether in family or friends. Because you don't want to force outside. You don't want to with sort of an anvil and a hammer manufacture and forcefully manufacture friendships desperately. There's a beauty in an organic friendship that develops. I mean, you could say the same thing here, that I intentionally created my tribe here. Why don't I do it outside as well? That's a point. But it does, I think, change you. Mr. Highway, I've been listening to so much content, I'm forgetting how to speak. See, that's the thing. That's a good point, Mr. Highway, and I'm not saying it to sort of belittle you. I think it's a great point. That I think this stuff, our interaction with people, where we can express what's important to us. Like, I think this stuff is important. I want to talk about it. I find it interesting to listen to, and I'd like to actually be more of this person in the real world. Practicing it out there is a great a tandem step. It's a necessary step. There's no point being more of you online and not showing it externally. Yeah, and listening to content and not speaking is not knowing how to speak because you're mute. You need to exercise this from this to here. It's another reason I script less and less of my videos, particularly before I showed my face. There was no point being off the cuff, because I could be as precise and read the script as much as possible. And then when I started to try and do that on camera, visually I could see that, like, this is fake. Like, it needs to be more real. Similarly, if you just read and absorb content, it's not that real for you. You get real input, but there's no real output. And the real output is where guys find the deadening experience of being online. We love interacting with the world. We're thing orientated, as in externally to us. So we need to talk, express, communicate, form tribes with men, play sport physically, but verbally and sort of experientially and figuratively out there. We need to kind of communicate and have conversations. There's this intimacy, but there's also that aspect of putting it out. We are externally more courageous, and limiting that in us, I think, is not that good. So yeah, learning how to speak, all of this stuff is very, very important, I think. Zone Television says, all my family's gone and it would be nice to have companionship. Yeah, people discount that other people don't have the same life as we do. We need to have a bit of sympathy and not get too arrogant about things, because online we're being conditioned to be sort of narcissistically trolling because that gets attention. And what everyone wants in their isolation now is see me, listen to me. I feel alone. I want to be part of a conversation, a tribe, and so forth. The easiest way is to make a big noise or, twitch and show your skin online. The challenge is to do it sort of honestly, verbally, as a friend, with honest words and things like that. Not everyone, a lot of people don't have it as easy as some of us do. So just curb the enthusiasm to sort of make fun of others. Human, next 6 months, do you have a plan? I'm just trying to be as responsible and put as low a footprint, responsible with my money, responsible with, I don't know if I'll have a job soon. Things aren't looking great. I don't know, but if I can help it, I refuse to be afraid of it until it comes. But I'll do everything I can to be responsible for whatever may come. At least I can then say, well, I wasn't an idiot, or wasn't too much of an idiot, if worse comes to worse. Esther Jim actually asks a good question. Did you improve any aspect of your life or yourself after you started making videos? Yes, I felt once I took the step and I kept steamrolling it. It allowed me to be more confident and more honest with what I say. If I'm going to do this, put myself out there, I have a tendency to have the courage to do more of that out in the world. Again, hiding yourself, I always found that I felt that uneasy feeling with not trying to be as honest as you can. And even when I fumble, and if I'm just chewing on ideas online, they're not 100% carved in stone like a religious precept from me. I'm just chewing on the idea, or momentarily I've had a conversation with somebody that's kind of just, might have annoyed me slightly, and I just want to sort of let something out and process the thoughts, because there's something important in there that I want to come to terms with, or even if it's just a vent a little. But being able to express it and be honest is something that I've gotten out of it. That is probably the main thing I'm grateful for. Donnie, hi from the UK. Hey, man. Korean James, loving the bokeh. Glad you liked it. Yeah, I'm trying a different style in the recent videos. I'm getting the hang of it. I'm really enjoying. The last one really worked out well. The balance of lighting and color. The color correction really turned up. My setup isn't too complicated. And that's the nice thing. I used to make really complicated setups in the past, and the videos didn't turn up anywhere near as well, near as good. But now they're much simpler. But I've fine-tuned what works a lot more precisely, that I can just go to. I literally, in the last video, I set up 2 lights and turned the camera on with a microphone, separate microphone, and that was it. Whereas previously, I'd do a whole bunch of stuff and overly process the footage afterwards to compensate and get a little bit too creative. So I think I'm getting the hang of it. Nick, never heard of Steel Panther. Look them up. They're a lot of fun. Man going his own way. I'm not sure if Steel Panther are from the beer commercials. It wouldn't surprise me. They're a very tongue-in-cheek band, but they are great musicians, though. John Doe, I have 2 friends that are married with awful wives plus prenups, and they keep complaining but don't divorce because of social pressure. If they divorce, they will be seen as a loser. That's the other thing. Guys who are highly successful, that they think, well, I can protect my assets, but psychologically, if they sever the relationship, it's kind of like there's a lot of hierarchy and status in terms of guys who have positions and money, that if you kind of admit to a failure, it's like losing a massive business publicly. That affects your reputation too. So a lot of these rich, successful guys don't take into account how their reputation and psychology will be affected. Not that I think it should matter, but from their point of view, looking from their perspective, I think some of their arrogance blinds them to, given their ego, they don't, though it's less likely they're gonna divorce. They're gonna tolerate a lot more than they soberly would from their partners and wives if it's not working, because they think, well, I've got a prenup, but also because socially their reputation will take a hit. They don't like their status being judged. Okay, let's go through some of the questions. Remember to ask questions, guys, bracket your questions with emojis or symbols just so I can see them easier on the feed. Badger, compliment to your videography. Thank you. Badger asks if I could spend a minute on my technical setup. I might actually do a video. I might start doing videos here and there. Or maybe add them like as a 10-second outro to every clip I do. Just sort of showing the technical info on screen as the video ends. That might be helpful to people. Or actually doing little short videos showing my little tips and tricks and things like that. But I don't know if guys who like my channel for a certain reason would appreciate me intruding with tech. I love it, but I don't know if other guys would. Basically, my last video, 2 lights, one softbox at 45 degrees, another hair light at 45 in the opposite end, and I just switched the camera on. The camera's an EOS R with a 35mm Sigma f1.4. And I put a LUT, some post-processing in Premiere afterwards, and that's it. The audio is was done by a shotgun mic, the Rode. This guy. What is it? The Rode NTG or something like that. I'm not sure what it's called. Anyway, don't get me talking about. I should actually just start a tech channel. I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I need any more work though. I barely have time to. I'd be having people saying, "Human, when's the next video?" And then the other channel is like, "When's the next video?" I already get some people telling me I don't update my music channel enough. Yeah, the dude, US, who was it? Dynamite Rabbit donated the 100. He's a cool guy. He's been on for a while. But as I said, guys, if you want to donate, especially anything substantial, do it through PayPal, please, because I get almost all of it here. YouTube takes more than 70%, so most of your money doesn't get to me. But I appreciate it either way. Do what you want. Real name's not given. I believe you show your face to make a connection with your audience. Exactly. Something you can't get from a disembodied voice. This is the thing. I get a lot from reading books, authors, but I'm listening to wisdom and I'm processing that voice in my head and I'm being talked to, but it's hard to talk back. Whereas guaranteed, and I've had moments where if I had someone who was wiser, who could actually teach me something and listen to me, if they were face to face and they would be able to talk and communicate with me the way I absorbed and learnt and got something from a book, it would have affected me and helped me tenfold. So I think the face to face is something that's sorely lacking with guys. Just simple conversation, intelligent, simple, honest conversation, rather than people reading off, essays of, perfection, which they're great. I like reading them. I like researching. But I think I don't see much guys doing what I'm doing. And I'm not saying I'm anything special, but I'm saying that I wanted to do this because it's like books. You write the books that you're tired of the books you want to read aren't out there. So you start writing the books you want to read. I started making these kinds of videos because I didn't see much of them in terms of men talking to each other and helping each other. I saw a lot of this stuff on general YouTube where people were doing blogs and just talking about life. And I recognize that connects with people so much, but they're not really talking about anything maybe that people might be going through. And I thought this sort of stuff would really help. Quasi Mandias, hey man, how you going? Get a sailboat. Touche. Okay. Yeah, I know. To tell you the truth, I don't know. Like, I admire you in a sense. I don't know why you even bother getting online with the life you have. I'm kind of, not that I'm stuck. I can always move, but I don't hate my life. I like my life. But where you found yourself, I don't know, especially with the internet connection, if I couldn't make the videos and stream them with this kind of quality or make my videos and have the time, if I valued the sort of sailboat life, I don't know how I'd manage or bring out content. But I know what you mean. Get a sailboat. Figuratively, that could mean a lot of things for me. But you are right, my friend. You are right. Women don't want to communicate. They want to put men down, get the power. No, Luke, for your own sake, don't get annoyed. Like, don't see women as the enemy. If you don't, you have to approach them. You have to put up with and say yes, dear. Just recognize what women are. And I think most of men's frustration is that we dearly want them to love us, leaning in the direction that our mother did. But no woman will love you like that. Females are like any other stranger that need to be recognized for who they are. They've got their own upbringing. They've got their own personalities. And on top of that, they're women in the same way we're men. We're not perfect beings either. But for your own sake, guys, don't get angry at women. Recognize the unfairness when women, when a person who happens to be a woman, given her nature, acts unfairly, focus on that. But don't just discount the dials that cause it and just say, women. As I said in the previous video, don't look at the individual woman in front of you as all women. She's an individual that has female predilections because we're biological human beings. But if you're introspective, you're into this stuff, don't fool yourself as well. You're into the individual. You're into ethics. You're into being able to speak better, think better, and lead a more responsible life that you feel more in control of. You're lying to yourself if you think you can coast, but women can be responsible and they need to shape up. If you're being as responsible as you can in the way you speak and the choices you make, the women you do or don't speak to, the relationships you have, fine. But you can't be now flipping the roles and be as passive as a lazy woman and expecting her to woman up to you. Don't get angry at women. Realize what they are, their nature, for your own peace of mind in your own life, so you have a better life. So you're not always antagonized and treating them like an enemy. I know we have limited free will, guys, but the degree to which we do have free will, and especially the reason we're here and you enjoy my content and the stuff we talk about, don't get cognitively too lazy when it comes to females, because the result won't be good for you. Again, I'm not concerned with women, for you. The dude says, save money, I guess, and keep your eyes open for other work. Yep. Be sensible in every aspect of life, guys. Relationships, money, your low-level Maslow needs. Then afterwards, everything's as long as you're not risking going below the low level of Maslow's hierarchy. Be sensible. Boffin asks, change is a given. Do you think that dismantling the patriarchy is a net positive or net negative for the social order in general? I don't really think there's any kind of hard patriarchy. I think people love to kind of go binary on these things. There's a relational quality. Previously, if you want, at best, I'll give an olive branch and say there might have been a soft patriarchy in the sense that men would take care of the more dangerous stuff that they're more equipped to handle outside, and women wouldn't. I think in history, to coin Jordan Peterson, men and women sort of cooperated and went through hardships because life was hard. Now it's easier, and we're not treating each other really well. We're asking more from the other than we're prepared to give in a lot of cases, or we're blaming the other wholeheartedly. Do you think that dismantling the patriarchy is a net positive or a net negative for social order in general? Net, generally speaking, I think it'd be a net negative to dismantle the male voice or the male compass to order and less chaos, because it's been more matriarchal recently. You just look at, who was it? Was it Nietzsche, or who was it that said, if you want to know who rules over you, just see who you're not allowed to speak up against? Clearly, women rule this society. If I had to choose between one or the other, I choose more a male-oriented society, because it tends to be fairer and more noble. Sure, there is more death natures involved, but turning the world into sort of a soft global nursery where no one can feel bad. Most of the suffering, where did I hear it? I think it was, it wasn't Freud, it was Carl Gustav Jung, I think, who said that most of people's suffering is avoiding legitimate, most of people's, how did it go? Most of people's depression or something is avoiding a legitimate suffering. Something like that. I butchered it, but basically, avoiding legitimate suffering is people's problem. A matriarchal view is no suffering at any cost. There must be no death. There must be no bad words. Everything must be rainbows and unicorns, which is why do you think there's more drugs? Like, just give me anything so the world is a VR model of bright colors and happy faces plastered over everyone. I don't want to see frowns. I don't want to see death. I don't want to get upset. The avoidance of legitimate suffering, where you can actually learn from. But I don't think it's... I tend to go off on a tangent answering questions, don't I, guys? Sorry about this. This is why I prefer doing videos where I can edit my rants. I think it's overall a net negative to get rid of patriarchy, if we want to call it the male mind compared to the female mind. The female mind collectively, I think, finds it hard to organize and lead. History has proven the male can. Yoan asked, did you have a fear of putting yourself out in the world on YouTube? A little bit. But I also knew that I don't like being afraid. And also I didn't like the feeling that I was resisting being honest with what I wanted to do. I wanted to make these videos. I wanted to speak more openly and honestly. And I always try to. I feel most alive and I enjoy life more when I can freely be the real me more and more. Ryan, why don't women have hobbies? They do. I think it's just kind of hobbies that we don't enjoy. Again, men and women are different. Recognize the differences. What we, for instance, define as love, you could say women don't love. They love, but in their own way. Recognize how we're different and how on the surface we can actually relate fairly that don't have anything to do with those. Like, fair enough, women see love, process and express love and value it differently than we do. But the way we relate without speaking it, I don't have to kind of drill it into a woman's head to understand love and operate from my perspective. I don't have that much of an ego. I need to be able to come to terms with how I value her, that she respects my boundaries, and that we can have common ground in terms of our values and how we see things, our morality. But trying to get another person to be a carbon copy, especially in terms of your definitions, it's better off you coming to terms with yourself. Women have hobbies. They don't have your hobbies. We use similar words. I think that's where we trip up, because we hear someone using a word that means something to them, and to us it means something fairly different. And we think, well, they said they had hobbies, but when I was with them, they had none. No, they just don't have anything that you see as a hobby. Yeah, you're in. Just in this super chat, YouTube takes 70%, whereas if you donate through PayPal directly on my link in my channel, they only take like 3%, I think. So I get almost every one of your donations. So again, if you want to donate a substantial amount, do it directly, guys. It stands out here when you donate a couple of bucks. If you want to do that, that's not much money. But if you really want to say thank you, if you feel like tipping me something, yeah, do it directly. That's probably, you'll feel better about it, and I'll appreciate it more without seeing most of it go to YouTube. Christopher, what is the meaning of life? It's not women. Well, it can involve women for a lot of guys. I don't know. The meaning of life to people, again, different. Going your own way is different to people. Lodestar, hey man, human, do you ever still get red pill rage flare-ups? Yeah, you could probably tell some videos where I'm a little bit more annoyed is where I've had a conversation with someone or I've seen something that's kind of annoyed me a little, but I'm trying to how can I put it? It's the same reason I don't mind having conversations with somebody who has different opinions to me as long as they're civil. It helps me reevaluate and see if I still think the same thing I used to. So if I kind of react to something that annoys me, again, I can revisit my assumptions. And does the annoyance actually mean that I need to adjust something? Why am I so annoyed? Or am I really annoyed because they're objectively just being an arsehole? Anytime I see hypergamy or potential monkey branching in action in real time, it just still pisses me off. Yeah, me too. I think it's the unfairness that annoys me. It's not so much the politics. I couldn't care less about the politics of feminism and Trump and all that rubbish. Stuff about the world that affects everyone, like, health, care, the environment, being a good person, things like that, that generally are human things, but political stuff, isms, for me, they're largely a waste of time. Unless you can make them personal, if they're not relatable, I don't see how it's really going to benefit our lives as much. But yeah, when I see kind of a person acting politically feminist and exhibiting unfair, as you said, monkey branching or any other thing, it annoys me too. I think it's seeing the unfairness and cruelty that other people treat each other with that sort of gets under my skin. William C., have you read The Rational Male? I haven't. People have asked me to read Rollo Tomasi's book for a while. I'll get around to it one day, I'm sure. I haven't yet. William talks about The Rational Male again, how Rollo talks about make yourself your own mental point of origin. Makes sense. I often talk about sort of ethics, which is the same thing. Your ethics have to be your own rules to which you adhere. Your perspective has to be from yours outward. What you think, and then outward. Your cup is full, and then the excess other people get. Most men's default is always the external first, and men give themselves the leftovers, if at all. Men have to get out of the habit of doing that. Okay, we've been going for just over an hour. Let's start wrapping it up, gentlemen. Ask your final questions, and we'll call it a day. Meditation helps, guys. Yeah, for some of you guys that find yourself getting irritated and angry, or even just switch off social media. I think in today's times, that's a meditative practice. Switch off your phone, don't look at social media, and just go for a walk and chill out in the sunshine. Sit on your porch, even if it's raining, with a cup of coffee, tea, beer, or whatever you want to drink. I think that in itself, given today's environment, You don't need to learn to meditate. Meditation is just switching off social media. Genesis says, I've listened to Rollo. He's intelligent, but is too into suggesting PUA as the end game. Yeah, Rollo's a smart guy. I have nothing against him. I think it's that female focused kind of PUA spine that most of it revolves around, I don't get much out of, but I do find the conceptual, the philosophical stuff interesting. I find that stuff interesting no matter who I listen to or who I talk to. So Quasimandias, I think the essential conversation that is being left out is that males have more of a female nature than women have a male nature, and for a male to completely express. I don't know if I need to think about that. Also, I sometimes I don't actually even think it's constructive when kind of go, oh, I've heard women say to me, oh, I appreciate you have a lot of female nature. And to me, I go, in what way? And they'll say, oh, you're thoughtful, you listen. I go, that's not me being female. That's just me being thoughtful and listening. I think the danger today as well, especially in the propaganda, is that anything negative that's male is aggressive, violent, competition, things like that. They can imbue that you can get women and other people to be resistant to and a bit scared of and apprehensive, whereas what's deemed as female is nurturing and caring and trust me and all that kind of stuff. A lot of the times that double talk, I'd rather, as I'm confident you might agree with me, Quaz, is that if people want to talk about how people treat each other, it should be less that, yes, there's certain traits that men have or that women have, but that to say that my kind, sympathetic, empathetic traits are feminine takes away from the parts, the sympathetic, empathetic traits that are in me as a male that I think belong to a female, and it can give men the misnomer of saying, well, if I'm tired of being angry, let me listen to women and let women's narrative direct me to be a better person and be more sympathetic. I think some men can actually fall into that trap and saying, if I want to be a calmer, sympathetic man, I'll lean into femininity. And if women are leading the narrative and the propaganda out there from females is really spiteful and toxic, I worry about them being led. So I don't know if to calibrate people, I would necessarily say be more like a woman or be more like a man. I kind of come from the position of I'm a man biologically, and I know my predilections. But when we talk about fairness and how we treat each other, they're from traits of morality and empathy that are connected to masculinity and femininity. But to say that I've got femininity in me, I'm sometimes a bit, maybe it's my own fault. I'm a little bit resistant because I think it could be a potential bear trap. Oh, and Quasimandias says, plus, it is necessary for a male to completely express, to understand, and relate to both internal and external female nature. Care to comment on that? Yes, but I think men need to get in touch with I've always said to guys, don't shy away from your feelings. There's the misnomer is, for a man, he's completely logical. Women do the feeling shit. That's the wrong attitude. And because there's been such a divide, now we're kind of saying, well, I've got to put on I've got to cross-dress as a woman, figuratively speaking, to get in touch with my emotions. Or a woman, now they've been taught for a while to be confident and speak up for yourself and be self-determined, put on the suit of a man. I don't think it serves our natures as well. I think it serves our natures better to recognize I'm proud to be a man. I know the strengths of being a man compared to a woman, and what am I not facing in myself as a kind, sympathetic, strong man, not as only a one-trick pony, strong, stoic man that is empty of feelings. So I need to go to the female to get those. Relationally, yes, but it is necessary for a male to completely express, to understand, and relate to both internal and external female nature. I'm not sure if the internal and external is necessarily male or female. Women may express more of the internal than men do, but I think men need to express their internal differently and not just pantomime a female's. I think men have a danger because we're so externally focused. The danger for men is to kind of go, well, for me to internally introspect, I'll look at women to hold my hand, figuratively speaking. How would a woman talk? How would a woman gesture? How would a woman feel? How would a woman care? And I'll just do it through a male voice and through a male's body. That could be the danger that could lead men down a worse path. I think sometimes I try and recognize that, for instance, people like yourself and me, Quaz, that we might have a natural will that other guys don't. So simply telling them to kind of trust the feminine without the kind of rebellious introspection that kind of our philosophical leanings would sort of help us understand. I think just telling a guy kind of trust that female side or express the female side could really make men jump off the wrong cliff because they're doing it blindly. I think it's tricky, man. I don't disagree with the direction you're pointing to. And also, maybe I'm going off on a tangent. This is probably a better conversation one-on-one. But let me think about that. Also, I hope your last few videos were pretty good, man. Especially just kind of kicking back in the sunshine. I take it you're back from your sailing trip. Okay, gentlemen, if there's... Oh, Pacific Twist, thank you for the donation. That's it, 99 cents. You didn't waste much money. And you highlighted a question, if you wanted to speak one. You didn't, obviously, but thanks for the little tip. If you want to donate anything substantial, guys, do it through PayPal. So you get your money's worth. Pacific Twist, are women religious? Yeah, so are men. I think the important question under that is, are women or anyone, is the person dogmatic? Are they narrow-minded? I think when people talk about religion and, you know, this person's religion, this person's a feminist, the person is narrow-minded. They're not open. They're not confident enough to stand on their own principles. They don't have their own philosophy. And so they'll count on a prepackaged philosophy and shout you down with that. So I think the question is the person dogmatic? Not whether they're religious or feminist or communist or left or right. Are they civil, fair? Are they reciprocal? Are they a decent person? Can they tolerate someone saying no to their cherished beliefs? Georgie says, if shopping was a hobby, then yes, all women have hobbies. Red Rubus, I love that you're not just woman bashing. Men have big responsibility too. Yeah, all your responsibility is you, gentlemen. As I said in my last video, the reason I give women as a potent example is that I recognize that most of the guys who are listening to my stuff aren't me. You know, they're not a 40-something-year-old guy who's kind of been there, done that, has kind of calmed down and can take women or leave them and can have a more sober approach to women in life. I realize that if men can actually adjust their morals and ethics around boundaries that they set for themselves around women and treat themselves with self-respect around women, everything else in life will fall into place. Then those principles in and of themselves will matter much more. They'll come to the forefront and not just, oh my God, a short skirt, how am I going to deal with this? Please, please don't crumble, don't let it take advantage of you. If you're always exercising these principles against your biggest addiction, which for most men, younger men, is women, if you can exercise that against your biggest sort of stress in life, and we talk about stress as in, you know, the force that's pushing against you in a way that you find uncomfortable and you find challenging. If you can master that, I think those principles that you can sort of exercise with a woman and stand up for them and be yourself and be honest, you will be able to sort of be yourself in other aspects of life much easier. Like, as I said in the video, most men are their dumbest around the opposite sex because biology is just throwing cocaine at you. That's why I talk about women, but I try not to bash them. And to the degree to which I might be smug or be sarcastic when giving an example is to kind of show, what's the word again? To show what's ridiculously obvious so you know what the truth is. I used to know the word to that. I can't remember at the moment. Brain fog. All right, guys, is that it? Hissy, Miggy, whatever. Will you... Hissing Monk 4 G4, will you do an interview with Thinking Ape? I've done a few interviews in the past. I talk to Thinking Ape every now and then on Discord. You guys just don't hear it. Your video feminism is female slower. Your video feminism is female amplification is my favorite you've created. It is one of, is it one of your favorites too? Yeah, I like that as well. It's a way to recognize that women acting at their worst and given free rein and being told you don't have to be nice. You've got free rein to be an a-hole. It's amazing how many people do it. But yeah, don't blame feminism, as I said. Judge the person in front of you. If they act like a feminist, then at least you know. But judge the person. Because the person that's approaching you might not be. But if you judge them before they've even spoken or acted, that, you know, like who they are, then you might actually be missing out on a good friend or potentially a good mate if you're so inclined. TMAC473, have you ever gone to psychotherapy or trained psychologist? Would you recommend it? I'd recommend, I've never been myself. I'd recommend it if nothing else helps, if you don't have people around you that you can speak to, if you don't have a philosophical interest in, you know, honestly working things out for yourself. But especially, I mean, if nothing helps, you might have biological things that you have to deal with that the average run-of-the-mill person might not have to deal with. you might have a biological disorder that's up here that might not just be behavioral. Most people's problems are behavioral and environmental, mostly related to childhood trauma. But if nothing else works, I would recommend it. But the tricky thing is, most of the therapy and psychological industry is run from a woman's perspective and by women. It's hard to find someone that'll understand you as a man. I would say it would be helpful if you find that there's nothing else, but shop around for a man that understands you. Be completely open. Don't pretend to be someone else in therapy. I've heard, because that's worse. You're wasting your time if you actually want to be helped. But also, the danger is opening up and being honest with someone who's been indoctrinated by feminism, because there's a whole lot of female therapists that have become therapists for narcissistic reasons and to figure themselves out, and now they narcissistically hold it over their patients. They try to help them from their own subjective point of view. They're not really listening and seeing the person. So it's tricky, but I would recommend it, but shop around if you've got no other choice. I would first recommend talking to guys who will listen to you, who show sympathy and who feel you can relate to. Surround yourself with good people first. If you can't, there's nothing else that can help. I would recommend it, but then the next hurdle is finding someone that you're compatible with, that you feel comfortable with. Wet Palette Warrior, have you noticed a particular job career path that attracts men who are red pill aware? Usually money, I think. It's either one extreme or the other, money or complete natural, living in the mountains, buying a sailboat, either getting off the grid, or if you stay on the grid, trying to be as untouchable and autonomous as possible. Both positions are similar, autonomy. So basically, the job career path either takes, I think the underlying thing is autonomy, whichever way that the person goes. Real name's not given. Theory: the better someone looks, the worse they treat you. Yeah, because they may not have. There's the glib sort of idea that an ugly, fat, overweight woman generally tends to have a nicer personality. Not always, because she can't just show up and get male attention or be the brightest and most admirable beauty among her friends. She doesn't have that status, so she has to compensate with personality. So I think there's something to that. People who are better looking don't tend to be nicer all the time. Actually, that's not worded correctly. I'd say I would believe that the better looking someone is, it's an indication maybe keep your antenna up for how nice are they, because those people don't, if they have no reason to exercise their personality, if they're given everything simply by the superficial looks, a lot of people don't do any more work because you're already getting everything you need. You look at the most beautiful women, you look at tall, good-looking men, or people who are born into wealth. Yes, Genesis, as I said in my older video, masculinity is not a defect. It isn't. But femininity from a man, for you to imbue femininity isn't a virtue for you either. Being a nice, kind, generous, caring person is. But I don't think the answer is to be feminine. Understand femininity, sure, but... Quaz, indeed, it is XX versus XY. Females are females, males are both. Sex isn't symmetric. Yes, exactly. It's the struggle is the dance, my friend, which literally and figuratively, men have and women have stopped dancing with each other. I think people underestimate those old school dance halls and, doo-wop clubs where, girls and guys would sit across from each other, approach each other, be polite, ask each other to dance, and get to know each other's steps. Now it's like we're shouting from across the room saying, "Hey, come over here. No, you come over here." Yeah, the double XY is very much a factor. We should chat about that, Quaz. We haven't talked for a while. Oh, Jared said, did you release a video today, Quaz? I should check it out. I've listened to a few of your others. I turned down the wind noise, man. Didn't you used to be in audio visual? Put on a wind muff on that phone. I really want to listen to what you're saying. Wet Palette Warrior. Are men time and place beings? Interesting. As in, there is a time and place for work, for emotion, for grieving, for reflection. We don't just let it all out. We exercise control. I think there's something in that, because I know I can't diverge, like split my focus too much. If I talk to you, I'm talking to you. If I'm in the presence of somebody, a woman, I like to give her my attention. When I'm away from her, I'm not going to remember everything. That's why I have a bad time, in which I think a lot of guys do, remembering dates and occasions, always having your mind a finger on everything. I feel like I can't focus on one thing if I have to have my mind tangentially sort of touching on other things too. Whereas women, especially because they don't abstractly focus on anything outside themselves, generally speaking, that they kind of throw themselves at, they're socially spread out. So I think we focus a lot more. One thing at a time and place. I think that makes a lot of sense. Great conversation you guys are having amongst each other in the comment section, guys. See, this is stuff I'm really grateful for, not just here in the comment section, but also under the comments in my under my videos. Keep the conversation going, guys. It's not just me, it's what you guys say in relation to this discussion we're having. Red Rebus, you sail awesome. I sail trimarans on the Swan River. I have no idea what that is, but I'm sure Quasimandias's nipples just got hard. Oh, it's windy outside. Speaking of sailboats. It's hard to end the stream when everyone's having such a great conversation. Okay, let's keep going for a little while more, fellas. I'm just conscious of the time, because afterwards, I'm not sure how many people will want to re-watch this if it goes for hours and hours and hours. Michael J., what made you take your name of Human? There were a few names, but at the end of the day, it just kind of struck me. I wanted to talk about my perspective as a man, and I thought it was a nice play on words. I also wanted to be a human being about things. So it was kind of like a two-pronged thing, which I think sort of fits what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to be macho, but I'm trying to talk from a very differentiated male perspective, because there's not enough of that being talked about. Most of the stuff out there is very female-focused, caring a lot about a woman's perspective, her life experience, what matters to her. And any kind of residue, we kind of throw the scraps for men to deal with, like hungry dogs in the backyard, that we don't pat, we don't give affection, we don't recognize as living human beings. The fact that men are such a large part of the living world, especially in the human race, yet we're being blamed for it, but we're being ignored. Not a good thing. So I just thought, from a male point of view, I thought it was a nice play on words. It pretty much conveys where I'm coming from, I think. Luke, why women want to take total control. Answer me, human. Women are like any other living organism. They want to survive. And if the society has said, here, free reign, survive without any restrictions, devour everything in sight, we don't care, there'll be no consequences. The organism that's never been used to being responsible, really, is having a hard time civilizing herself. I don't think women want control anyway. It might look that way. They're awful. They're awful at it because I don't think women lead very, very well. There are a minority that can. Most don't lead very well. So I think they like the idea, like most people, even in the manosphere, people like the idea of freedom, but they don't actually like the autonomous responsibility that freedom necessitates you have. You can't have it without responsibility. Paul Elam is an awesome therapist. I actually think he's a great guy. I'd assume he's a great therapist too. I don't know why so many. I suppose there's guys that talk about history, like back in the day, Paul Elam didn't have a good view of MGTOW, but I have nothing but respect for the guy for all the conversations I've had with him. From the way I've spoken to him, if you can find a therapist like Paul Elam, I think you'll do well. Look for, there you go. There's an answer I can give you guys whenever you're talking about therapy. Find someone who sounds like Paul Elam. You'll do really well. It's your best chance. Find a therapist that talks like Paul Elam. Old school. Who seems like he drinks whiskey and smokes. Whether or not he does is beside the point. Yes, real name's not given. Use symbols before and after your questions, guys, so I can see them. I'm not ignoring you, but there's too many comments. Anglo-Jamaican morning human from the UK. Hey, man. AB Co. What are some cures to the red pill malaise? What worked for you? The thing is, once you start introspecting, if you know you have to do a lot of work, or at the very least, you have to clean out a lot of rubbish in your life, or maybe internally, it's going to require work. You don't click your fingers. You can't hire someone to do it for you. That's going to be challenging and painful, and it's going to take time, and you're going to have to sit with it. There's no cure to the malaise other than time and conscious attention in the direction you should be focusing on, as in what you read, how you speak, no longer associating with people who are just toxic, no longer arguing, debating, buying into politics and feminism and all that rubbish. You want to get better personally, revolve around the personal, and revolve around people who are civil and want to converse around the personal. Lean in the direction that is healthier than where you've come from. I would just suggest some of that stuff. There's no one size fits all quick pill thing, but that's just a quick answer generally. I don't know what specifically you can do because everyone's different. What worked for me? I am fairly intellectually curious, rebellious by nature, don't tell me what to do, very independent, high degree of self-preservation. My makeup is very different to most people, and a lot of that helped me, but some of it also has had me having to work at being more open too. So some of those challenges I have, some guys are more open in certain respects than I am. So depending on your makeup, if you're finally interested in being more honest and not playing by the game and being more you and not playing by the rules that no longer work for you, lean in the direction where the answers will probably lie, and stop doing things that don't work for you. Professor Raphael, thank you very much for your super chat. I appreciate it. Remember, guys, any larger donations, you're better off going through PayPal directly. The money will get to me here. They take 70%. But I appreciate little donations, as long as they're not a big hit to your pocket. Also, get enough sleep. Yes, that's an important thing. Sleep is the most important thing for your health, physically, mentally, or otherwise. Number one, gentlemen. I keep forgetting that. I think because it's so basic, I take it as a given. It's like saying, oh, remember to eat. Mr. Highway says, I think the rising interest in Stoicism is due to men developing a defeatist attitude. Letting things go that are out of control has become a crutch for men who just throw their hands up in defeat. Yeah, letting things go too far, I think, is the point. Stoicism kind of recalibrates you to saying no. Setting boundaries and definable sort of values and pillars of kind of like, when this confronts me in life, if someone makes me feel uncomfortable, here's something I respect, you know, a saying, a phrase in Stoicism or what have you. Men have stoically become lazy, which is why I think a lot of Stoicism has come back, not because of the thing in and of itself, but because of the nutrition that Stoicism provides a man's lexicon and ways of operating. No, as I said in, I think it was the Alone Man video, there's a sense in a man, and a man knows there's nothing beyond him. He has to be responsible. He can't lean on a woman. He can't lean on society. All of those things lean on him, women and society and children and everything. And we feel good when we're appreciated and rewarded for acting and giving and being responsible. The problem today is that many men are ridiculed and spat on. Find a therapist like Spetsnaz. Depending what kind of guy you are. I'd appreciate a therapist like Spetsnaz, but another kind of guy might find Spetsnaz a little bit confronting. Find the kind of personality that you find naturally comfortable, that you can open up and speak to. Don't just find someone that you find like, oh, this guy's confident, he'll teach me to be more like him. But if he's not comfortably like you, you might struggle. I mean, you're already going through enough problems. The fact that you're at a therapist in the first place. You don't need that challenge as well. I humbly offer. Michael J. Why is it so many MGTOW are oriented back to women instead of human? Is that their way? Do we care? I think it's one reason I don't label myself, I haven't for a while labeled myself the acronym MGTOW, is because the meaning of it's kind of changed. I think most of it's imbued with PUA. All roads lead to women, which I think is detrimental for you being a self-respecting, confident man that can deal with anything in front of you, including one of your biggest obstacles, women, or in most guys' case, the only big challenge. Yeah, most of it's imbued in PUA rhetoric. There's a lot of wise philosophy behind it in understanding women, but all roads, lead to being an alpha. Finding yourself through finding your dominance over women and how to puppeteer women. Very little of it is how to puppeteer yourself. The men I've met that are naturally comfortable and self-assured, that I admire, that have this kind of aura of confidence just in their mannerisms and the way they speak, they don't focus on women. They just have a natural confidence in reality and themselves that is just so admirable. I want to be a self-assured person, more like that person. I don't want to be a guy that learns lines, that puts on a lion suit so he can, fly under the radar and exist amongst women that he kind of secretly feels below and is grateful that, he's got this hot girlfriend or he's punching above his weight. That's just me. There is a lot of truth and wisdom within the PUA / MGTOW community nowadays that I can understand why a lot of guys, especially guys who are horny and still women are at the top of the tree of their interest. I could see why it's so attractive, because there is a lot of wise information in there. The fact that sort of covertly all roads lead to women instead of all roads leading to you, that I find unappealing. But that's why I think a lot of guys kind of can stumble within that arena. But how do you tell them to be careful when they're horny? Metal Botanist, what is your advice for young men? I've had no father growing up and have no male role model. I've spoken about that in a few videos. I've had my own sort of introspection in terms of my childhood. My father being kind of, I had a father in the home, but he was absent to a large degree. He was the orbiting provider, let alone if you actually are abandoned by your father. You don't have a father. You're grown up by a single mother. That's a whole nother video. It is a challenge. I don't know what you can do other than to, it's a broad question that I don't want to dismiss. Look at a couple of my earlier videos where I directly described that. I think it was last year especially. I went through a period where I really kind of delved into my past and reflected on it. Those probably talk about that more than I could off the top of my head hurriedly give you a quick pill here, which I don't like doing for such an important and broad subject. So I'm not dismissing you. Excuse me. What a pig. What a male. I think those videos would give you more nutrition than I would quickly be able to answer here. Sorry. Herman, thank you for the super chat, man. Again, for any larger donations, please contribute through PayPal. PayPal only take 3%, whereas here on YouTube, they take 70%. But I appreciate anything. Thank you. Really, thank you. Herman says, have you ever seen or already spoken about the article in The Guardian today? I haven't read it, Herman. I might have a look if it crosses my path. I don't pay attention to much of the news other than people and friends mentioning it to me. I spend more time reading, writing, creating, things like that. I learn about the world through people in my life, really. Some say I probably should have my finger on the pulse, but then again, you look at the media that's feeding you this stuff, I think I'm in a healthier position. Michael asks if time heals all things and eventually all things will fall into place, why try to please anyone but yourself and your own needs? There is wisdom in that. When you can't change the outcome of so many things that are so external to you, you really have limited to no puppeteering sort of effect on them. But you do have a lot with yourself. You're really avoiding the major control you could have in how good your life could be. Focus on yourself and be kind to others and relate to others. But focus on put yourself first and foremost in terms of action as a first step in your mental thought process. What do I think? They said something. Hang on. What do I feel? Hang on. What's my opinion? I don't know yet. Let me get back to you. Learn to say no. Learn to say maybe. Learn to say not yet. Learn to say I'll get back to you. Futurist Studios, do you think the more technologically advanced society becomes from washing machines, microwaves, to the emergent artificial intelligence robots, how do you see the gender power balance evolve? I have no idea. We're working it out at the moment. A lot of guys are going full bore into artificial intelligence and sex dolls. Women are going full bore into career and power. But we're separating the intimate parts of our lives, the relaxed, intimate parts of our lives where we can be completely just, decompress. A lot of that is suffering, especially with another person, because there's only so much you can do on your own to relax and live on your own. And it's great. I love my life. But I also remember from relationships of having a woman that I get along with the amount of the quality of sleep I have with a woman who really understands me, who I sleep well with. There's certain tactile things that I get from a woman that I just can't get on my own or with my friends. And that's not being funny. It's just the reality of it. And I can't deny that they would be nice. I don't need them, but also if your life's getting worse and worse and you're trying to hide those things from yourself, don't ignore those too. Have your eyes open is the message I'm trying just to get the men to think for themselves and think better and be honest at the end of the day. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do when I chew on my ideas. Professor Raphael, thank you again for the super chat. Remember, small donations through here because I don't get very much. If you want to make substantial donations, please do them through PayPal or subscribe through Patreon if you feel like it. Greetings, mate. Keep up the good content. I got one question for you. Is MGTOW movement becoming an echo chamber just like the ones it was supposed to free us from? In a lot of ways, yes. And in a lot of ways that why I no longer wear the acronym or identify it as it. I do describe myself as a man still going his own way and doing his own thing, but I don't want to be involved in the politics and the rules, and I'm not really MGTOW because of A, B, and C. It's not important. In the same way, I don't have an interest in politics. I don't have an interest in the politics of going your own way. I'm interested in the subjective aspects of talking with other guys openly about doing your own thing and what course corrections you can take, what makes sense for you and your own ethics. But definitely, it's kind of squeamish when you see men acting the same way as the women they're acting against, as like a equal and opposite reaction without even knowing it. I mean, I did it, honestly, like I did it for a while years ago and it got me nowhere. And if I was honest, if spurging out from a male perspective against women who are spurging out from a female perspective, you're doing the same dance. But if you're really sick of it, think about it. Think about it, gentlemen. Think about it. Just think about it. Michael J., how would you relate the journey of MGTOW to that of grieving and the final step of acceptance of how things are, and then the paths to take after that? Usually the kind of red pill is synonymous. The cliche is kind of like you either kicked in the stomach to the ground, you wake up, you're unplugged, it's breaking out of Shawshank. It's kind of a traumatic release, but in a lot of ways a refreshing one. But at the same time, you realize how foolish you've been or how you've been taken advantage of by the propaganda or what you perceive to be real. Acceptance, the path afterwards, your path, which I think a lot of guys underestimate. They think, oh, now I'm free, I can do anything. But with freedom comes the responsibility now. I think in a lot of ways for a lot of guys, if you're not calibrated for freedom, if you're not a rebellious individual, an intellectually curious, rebellious individual that said no as a child, that ran around, built trees, fell out, skinned his knee. With this freedom, when you break out of Shawshank, and don't forget, once you've seen the truth, it's hard to unsee it. I think a lot of guys have a difficulty. So the acceptance afterwards, I think, is the hard thing for most guys, because the liberation of the red pill for most guys feels good. But there's also the anger, the blame, where to direct it. The acceptance is the hard bit afterwards. How you think, how you speak to yourself can help a lot with that. If you're angry, if you kick yourself, if you're not sympathetically philosophical to yourself, if you don't talk to yourself like a friend, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to always reflex back to where you felt a bit of power and a bit of safety, which is getting angry and pointing at women or blaming the government. Thanks, MGTOW Lucid Dream. I appreciate that. Metal Bottomist. Most days I feel like I lack personal intimacy and warmth, so I keep looking at hentai and have some sort of a waifu mummy to substitute for it. How can I fix it? This is the thing. Men get enough shame, and we feel shame and guilt closely. They're very different. But if you know you're feeling shameful living a certain way, do something where you won't feel ashamed. You get enough from it from society and certain types of women, and we're sick of it. A lot of men are sick of it, especially in the manosphere. Stop adding more of it by seemingly going, I don't need you, ladies. I've got my doll, or I've got this. And if you feel shamed, if you accept it, fine. Have a doll, live a monk life, do whatever you want. If you can honestly say in privacy, when you're all alone in your solitude, you're at peace, and you really can take it or leave it whether you deal with another human being. You can take it or leave it if you touch another woman, if you have a conversation with her. But if you're honest with yourself and you feel a little bit of shame, stop feeling shame, guys. Have a bit of self-respect, whatever you decide to do or don't do. Hey, Red Pill Tokyo. Hope you're doing well too, man. Yorian, don't worry, human. I notice you avoided my nofap question. Well played, sir. I suppose it's not appropriate. No, I didn't see a question, man. I'd highlight it with some emojis or something. I don't have much of an opinion with nofap. I notice with myself that I think there's probably, I don't know about long-term, but I've seen short-term benefits. I know that if I've masturbated before I need to do work, all the air gets taken out, and I'm sort of like my mental acuity is flat. I can't be bothered. So I think there are cognitive bonuses, but they're also, for some guys, depending on how they're wired, if you're always horny because you're frustrated, that can also make you unproductive and completely focused around women. So it's a two-edged sword. I don't have much of an opinion. I haven't really sort of delved into it. I'm not avoiding the question. I just don't know too much about it. I know my own personal case that when I have work to do, I don't. It doesn't help me at all. It does the opposite. I get lazy. My mental acuity drops. I can't be bothered. I'm not productive. If you got nothing to do, if you just want to relax, hey, do what you want. Mr. Highway, how large is think the range of things that are in your control? I feel that Stoicism isn't taken in good faith today. Men say society is beyond their control, but that's true. Look at history. Largely, we don't have a lot of control unless we give something our conscious attention. We mainly run on our limbic system. But the hard bit is you don't want to be stuck in your head and concentrating every single moment. Otherwise, you don't relax and just relate to human beings and have fun and enjoy life. I think the good balance is when there are important things, or you feel awkward in certain ways, or you feel shame or guilt or so forth, stoically and consciously process them. So you exercise the muscle of your virtue. So you know in situations how to act and how to speak. And then you know when to relax your grip and just be a human being on autopilot who doesn't need to be hyper-vigilant 24/7. You don't want to be the guy that's hyper-vigilant 24/7, that's always serious. You want to have fun as well. But if you're always exercising the important things that you know are your Achilles heel, especially with women, the world where you've always had problems, be aware of them, but you don't need to be have a stick up your butt, stoically speaking, on everything. You have to have a sense of humor about life too. But yeah, I some guys I think they have more control than they do. I say test things. Use your will and see how much control you can have over certain things and see the result. Did it improve your life? Did it frustrate you? Did you have much control really at the end of the day? Test it. Finch says the only thing you truly control is how you respond to the thing. Good point. Michael says, if natural selection is inverted and given to women, what will society look like in 200 years in your vision? I think I answered this previously. Our society wouldn't survive if they're trying to sort of give women the reins, and it's going downhill. A cooperative, organized, fair, reciprocal, is the appropriate word, society is not existing as time goes on. It's getting worse and worse. Men can sort of see the good and bad thing about men being able to deal with abstract and caring about abstract is the abstraction of children and women that we really can't relate to, but we can kind of conceptualize. We can take care of them even if we aren't them, but we can conceptualize the sympathy of placing ourselves in their shoes, their needs, and the dance we need to do with them if we want life in the long term to go ahead. Another reason why men like chess, we can see the long game. Women aren't great chess players in life, conceptually, especially. So putting the future in their hands, they're not great long-term thinkers. Metal Botanist says, human, I meant, how do I fulfill the desire for intimacy and warmth without women, or get rid of it? I don't know, other than I haven't gotten rid of it completely within myself. Age has helped, but all I've done is, okay, let me be honest with myself. As human, I can't pretend to sort of not like the company of women anymore. They're not something I've completely outgrown, and I'm not saying in a childish sense, but I still appreciate the companionship, sex, touch, intimacy, smell of a woman. The important thing is, given I'm honest with myself, what boundaries am I going to stick to have a good relationship to the degree that I do want a woman in my life, that I will feel comfortable with her, to the degree that I want her to respect me and my values, and vice versa. You know, if I expect and want that for me, I'll have to respect her boundaries too, but they'll need to be compatible. So again, be honest with yourself. Don't pretend to be someone who doesn't need intimacy if you really do, to whatever degree. Set your boundaries and limits for self-protection, for a healthy life where you're not always on eggshells, and speak up. Defend yourself. That's the best advice I can give you. But don't try and be someone else. If you do need intimacy, it's like the guys who want a family in a Western society. They've got a lot of challenges. I don't know. Go to a country that doesn't have those laws, where you can be less afraid, where you only have to deal with female nature, not like in the West where you have to deal with female nature, with the laws, with unfair expectations, blah, blah, blah. There's just so much of a concatenation of things that men need to deal with in West that they don't, if you wanted a family in a third world country where the laws aren't as bad. I don't know. What do you value enough to sort of change your life to go in the direction that really matters? Ask yourself important questions. Anyway, guys, I think that should be it. We've been going, oh, geez, for 2 hours. I want this to go for an hour, but look, today's conversation was good. A lot of great questions. A lot of good people dropped in. Thank you guys for being part of it. I really enjoyed myself, and we'll do it again soon. Remember, comment below, subscribe, and if you want to donate,
try not to do it through here. Do it directly through PayPal. But either way, I appreciate all of it, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.